Happy New Year, everybody. Thanks for joining us here at Rocky. Sitting here with Sean, Matt, and Amanda. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. So we're doing things a little bit different this year. First of all, we're having Sunday online via video. But also, we want to talk about 2022. I mean, here we are at the beginning of 2023, but we want to take a little bit of time, about 30 minutes or so, and look back at what has happened this year, but also some things that we're excited about looking forward. But here's the thing, we promise you what we're not gonna do is just rattle off a bunch of facts and numbers throughout the year, okay?
Sounds good.
Hopefully you're prepared with that. Because even though, we know this, it's like if we talked about how many baptisms or how many small groups or how many students in attendance, we all know that those numbers mean something. It's like they represent people that we care about, friends, family, all that, people that we've invested in at Rocky. But I want us to look at what's happened this year and attach stories to it. Like, this is personal for us. I'm grateful for these things. And I think in general, it's just healthy for people to take some time and look back at the things that they can be grateful for. Because I think there's a bunch of reasons why, but one of them could be, for me personally, when I look back at the past, it's easy to remember the things that weren't great. It's easy to think back to the things that were painful. I can prove it. Matt, when you were growing up, do you have any good memories of going to the doctor?
No, in fact, my biggest memory is when I freaked out and got a shot one time.
Yes. Mm-hmm. See, every time we went to the doctor's actually helping us, right? He's actually preventing us from getting more sick. She's helping us set a broken arm, something like that. But all you think about is what was bad. Yeah. That's my point. Yeah. So it's good to take some time and think back and say, these are the things that were good, okay? And then a little bit, Sean, you're gonna be sharing just from scripture, some things that we could be thinking about and moving forward with. But how about we start with that? All you guys share one or two things that, looking back in 2022, that you're really grateful for. What do we need to celebrate?
I think there were a lot of things. I would throw one in, just even for this room. I think we're incredibly grateful for our church and our people. But I remember a conversation that happened almost exactly a year ago, where one of our staff members, our operations pastor, had come to me and said, "Man, we got some things that have changed in our family, and we're going to be moving back to Kentucky to take care of my mother-in-law." And I remember thinking, "Oh man." Love this person and appreciated them. They've done some really great things. But the question was like, where do we go from here? Yeah. This person oversees a lot of staff on the operations side and works with you guys who are doing ministry side and that. And, through a lot of conversations, we just came down to it and said, you know what, Matt and Amanda have a lot on their plates, but we just think it's better for us to actually keep this in-house and not bring in somebody from the outside, because somebody from the outside always has to learn vision and values and history and all those things. And we just said, you know what? We think the best thing, and we have such a good staff behind these two too, that we should have them absorb that. And you guys have done an incredible job.
I've been pretty good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So I would say I've been very thankful, because there were even some questions of like, man, they have a lot on their plate, and can they handle that? And I think the combination of the two of them, the combination of the staff that they have at each campus, and our operations team, and then our lead team, it's just been a really good year. And I think it's been a great year as far as communication, ministry wise, a lot of advancement. I've been really pleased. So well done.
Thanks, dude.
Well done. And it's been great.
Absolutely. What would you guys say?
I think, from staying on staff level, we kind of entered the year with some positions that were open. And, I think just in church world, there's been, just like in any other, sectors of employment, there's been a lot of transition. So, we take those hiring processes pretty seriously. And I'm looking back now and we see the people that we brought onto our team, and they're high capacity, great people. And at the Fred campus, with our student pastor for sure, we've had some transitions the last 2 years in there. And so with Matt McDonald, that guy, he's been awesome. Hit the ground running, been a good win for the campus, but even a bigger win for our families. He's doing such a great job.
Sunday, after church, I was looking for my boys, And I was like, it was actually during the second service, and they had gone to class and everything. And the second service, they were going to hang with me, and I couldn't find them. And they never came and found me. And I look around the corner, and there is Matt McDonald sitting with 6 boys of all different ages, just hanging. And they talk the entire service, him just building into those boys. So good story, good guy.
Yeah,
sure.
he's done a great job. So I'm thankful for him.
Yeah, one of the things that when we came on taking over this position, we had to hire people right away. And it was like, all right, here we go. We got, I think, 3 hires that we made. So Matt McDonald, Kelly Bath, kidsmen at Niwot, and then Enoch Miller for sports ministry. So all
That's
positive,
exciting. All 3 of those.
super exciting things. Yeah. And along with hiring Kelly and kidsmen, I mean, I've been at Rocky for a long time, did kids ministry there. And one of our things there, our kids have been on the other side of the building, right? So you come in the building, you drop some kids off over here, you go clear across the building, you drop other kids off over there, then you come back and you go in the auditorium. And so it feels like a chore to come to church, like you, right?
You're running, it's like you're running errands before.
Nick, you got lazy a few times, right? You're like, hey, Penny, here's your tag. Hope you find your way to your room, because I don't want to come to you.
You joke, but I remember when, and probably a lot of people feel this way, you felt this way. When we first came to Rocky, I remember the check-in process of all the kids. I remember just thinking, like, this is so strange. And there were obvious reasons why that we had to do that for a long time. But it's amazing that this year you guys made that change.
Yeah, so we took a 30-year-old building, right, where we've added on. So you add on, you get all that, craziness of where kids are. And so we took our kidsmen, put everybody on the same level, same area. So good. Yeah.
It just changes the dynamic. You were talking about this last Sunday, just the energy and the vibe of the lobby spaces, both campuses.
Yeah, it's transformed. Just the
Fred,
interaction between services and all of that. You walk in, you're like, wow, something is happening. It's really good.
And you just mentioned this, but we did the same thing at our Frederick campus.
Yeah, we did the same thing at Fred, going, how do we make this as easy as possible for parents to check in? And so we've had our kids men on 2 floors. And so we essentially moved all the kids from top floor down to the bottom floor. And it's a big move for our kids team. But yeah, it does. It makes it that much more simple to check in. And then it creates this energy where even before we're kind of the same portion of the building, but now we're just, everybody's there's like a main space now that everybody has to go through. And I've stood out there a couple of Sundays. It's a lot of fun seeing everybody chatting. Kids are really pumped up about it as well. So that's been a great win. And then we've been able to maximize all that space upstairs in different ways for groups and for our staff. And we've only been in it for a couple of months, but it's been awesome.
Good change.
Yeah, real good.
Yep. 2 years ago, we started a podcast that we call Unscripted, and probably a lot of you have listened to it, but even more of you haven't. But this last year, what we realized was we just stayed committed to it and even changed the format a little bit, the conversation, and just seen a lot of growth with that. And I mean, over 100% more people listen to it this year than last year. Matt, you like to joke that, well, when you go from 5 people to 10 people.
100% growth. Yeah.
It has been good though, and you've done an excellent job with it.
Thank you.
You're a good podcaster.
You're the best. You're the best.
But you've shared stories, Amanda, about people that come to Rocky and they say, we're here, our first experience with Rocky was listening to that podcast.
Yeah, it was funny. I met a family that came for the first time, and I was like, hey, tell me about you. How'd you get here? Who are you? And it was funny. They were like, well, this is who we are, but we already know everything about you. We've listened to a podcast, we've watched online, and they're telling me things that I said in a podcast. I was like, okay, yeah, you know us.
Scary.
It is a little scary.
When you think about some of the things that we accidentally share in podcasts.
Yeah.
It's a much more conversational style.
But it's good because you're getting behind the scenes, not just on even church and leadership, but on people.
Oh, for sure.
On different people on our staff. And then you've been inviting more guests on. There's been some high capacity people that you've invited on and done some interviews. It's been good.
Yeah, and I think the most listened to episode.
It's probably the ones that I'm on. Is that what it is?
I hate to say it, Matt.
That did not make us
think-
go from 5
I
to
think
10.
the top 2 didn't have you
That's okay, bud.
in there.
Yeah.
But you do a great job.
New year, new me. That's okay.
But one of the top ones it was called How to Forgive.
Hmm.
And I think we talk about forgiveness all the time. We're a church. But there's still sometimes you want to hear a conversation of saying, okay, we talk about that, how important it is, how much we benefit from forgiveness. But can you just explain how you actually do that? But it's been a great year for podcasts. What else?
I think for me, another big one is just our global partnership. And so it's been fun. The last 2 years we've done 2 Kenya trips, one in the summer, one in the fall. Amanda was on the one
I was on
in
the
the
one in
summer,
July. It was great.
and I was back on the one in October this year. But it's just so good, and I'm grateful for just the relationship we have with Missions of Hope International and Wallace and Mary, and it's been cool. We had a lot of people go on a trip this year, first time, and it's just fun to see people go through that, and you see them come back, and they're just pumped up, and there's already just natural momentum for trips that are coming up this year. And I'm just thankful for it. It's been a big blessing for my family. We had one of our girls go on this past year and one on the year before that with our trip that we went on. So it's a lot of cool things are happening in those conversations with Kenya and just the ministry opportunities. It's been huge.
I actually got to go on the trip with Lorelai. So Vanessa and Lorelai went, and so much fun. I could tell a couple stories about Lorelai, but
Are you going to?
I mean, maybe, but we went to way far out. So went to Nairobi where we work with Mohi, and then we took a plane, went to this place called Turkana. So super remote. And you're with all of these adults, and then we've got Lorelai, who's the youngest on the trip, and everyone else. I mean, it's rough conditions. Like bathroom is like, hey, here's a hole in the ground that you can go to the bathroom in. So everybody's struggling a little. And then you got Lorelai over there, and I'm like, how are you doing? She's like, I love it. Like, this is great. And so awesome. This kid who you think like she's probably not loving, not having all the conveniences, she was the one just cranking it out there, loving every second of it.
It's so funny because
awesome.
she's probably our least outgoing. And so, our kid, and she's 15. And so when I was waiting for her to come back and be like, it's funny because some of the adults came back and they're like, oh man, Turkana was rough. And
yeah.
I was like, Lorelai, what'd you think? She's like, I'm ready to go back.
I'm in.
She was in her element, man.
And I was
That's
like,
great.
wow. I mean, she loves kids. And so to be up there hanging out with kids, she was all in. So yeah, I'm thankful for that partnership. It's had a lot of positive influence in my kid's life. And now our younger 2 are just, waiting to go. So
I had a conversation with a dad who was on that trip with his son yesterday, and he made a statement that trip literally changed the direction of that kid's life. Mm-hmm. Like, as in maybe thinking about what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And I thought, man, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think Nick is going on a trip.
Oh, wow.
This year.
We're putting it on video.
Wow.
Here it is.
Well, it's already been on a podcast before.
We're putting it on
I think he's
video.
going. I think that's what he said.
Hey, are you going to go in July or October?
Yeah.
I'm going to go in July. I'll go with Sean. Go with Sean.
Okay.
That's
All
good,
right.
dude.
I'll go in July and October.
Yeah. Wow. Look at you.
You heard it here.
Oh.
That's awesome. So what else?
I think it's one of the things that has been really neat, and you look back over the last couple of years, I think there's a lot of people that have been disconnected just with circumstances in our world with the pandemic and all of that. It is neat to me to know that we've had our largest amount of people in groups this year that we've ever had at Rocky.
That's incredible.
And I think that's just a reminder how much people need that. And then I'm thankful for our team that they're providing an opportunity for people to connect, but people to grow together. And then you jump into other things like, our student ministry, the partnership with Young Life at the Niwot campus. Mm-hmm. And then Matt McDonald, we mentioned him, and him coming on is doing great things there and really starting some things out there. But the Young Life partnership has been fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, just see 2 organizations, one we've been encouraging of, supportive of, and that in our community, but them locking arms and coming together. I think it's just been great. And I think there's nothing more that our students need in our world today that's trying to put them all in a cookie cutter mold, say you're all supposed to be this way and be the same, when they're all different and they have different identity and different gifting. And I love what Billy is doing and Young Life is doing to try to say, hey, let's grab these kids in and teach them what God says about them.
And it's been a fun thing, but it's been a risk, right? Because it's not something either organization has ever done before. Like Young Life's a para organization. It's not like every day they're partnering with the church in this way. And typically as the church, we wouldn't say, hey, we're going to partner with a para organization to say.
Young Life's not doing that hardly anywhere else. There's only a couple spots in the country.
Yes.
And
so it was something that we said, hey, we think that we can reach more kids together. We can do better together than we can do separately. And so willing to put some of our agendas aside to say, hey, how can we reach as many kids as possible for Jesus? And so it's been cool. It's not been easy. Every step of the way has not been easy, but it's been cool to watch these kids. And fun stories coming out of just student ministry of, Billy has a ton of stories of kids. I mean, even last week at camp, some kid who, Young Life connection only, not church connection, gone through a bunch of stuff over the last few months, came up to him at camp and was like, hey, do you have a Bible? And Billy's like, never thought that would be the kid asking me for a Bible. So
That's
fun
cool.
stories.
I know for our kids, regularly they will say things like, hey, so-and-so that we knew from soccer 3 years ago and blah, blah, blah. They were at youth group last night. And they're just surprised that because they didn't come before. And like you guys were saying, we have access to students and they are interested in coming to something that they would never were before, and we didn't have access to them before.
Well, I think you've told the story about Caroline, who maybe at the beginning of school was kind of not going.
Yeah.
And then some of her friends were inviting her to her church.
It was awesome. She missed one night. She missed one night. And her friends told Billy and other leaders, we're trying to get Caroline to come. And it's like, she's been coming here for years.
You know what I love though, and I am thankful for this for our church, like we're trying to figure out how do we gain influence in students' lives. And I think, you've done student ministry in the past, I've done in the past. It's tough. It's a tough culture to do that. And I love the workplace.
Game has changed.
The game has changed.
Yeah.
I mean, we joke around like 20 years ago, you just buy pizza and kids would show up. And
that's not going to work now.
It's not going to work. So I'm thankful as a church, and again, we've said it multiple times, but thankful for our student ministry guys, and they're out there trying to figure it out. And so it's been good. I've got one thing that I feel like it's pretty obvious, and I'm embarrassed that none of you have said it, about something you're grateful for.
Wow, what is it?
Sean Moyers.
Oh.
I'm grateful for
What
Sean
are you
Moyers.
doing right now?
And I'm embarrassed for you guys, you didn't say it. But I do mean that, by the way. I do
appreciate you
You're welcome.
much more.
You're welcome. I want to make sure I got to it first.
How much did Sean pay you?
No, you didn't pay me.
I was saving it for last because you saved the best for last. But go ahead.
Now, in light of that, though, I do think this past year, I am grateful because this guy has said, hey, we're looking at Sunday morning stuff. And from a teaching, I mean, how grateful are you guys? The teaching has been amazing, I think.
You are on one right now.
But here's the thing. We change up some stuff. A lot of people don't see this. This is like behind the scenes kind of stuff. But, it's a conversation that you led into going, hey, what can we do to kind of raise the bar for ourselves? And we do things that I think people would be surprised that we do. And you led with it. There's a level of vulnerability.
Yeah, explain. Are you going to
essentially there's some timing things for us as far as just getting notes in and, at a certain time. And so we have our stuff, in much earlier. But I think the biggest change is that every Tuesday, we essentially, who's ever teaching is running through, their message in a room full of people, which isn't the easiest thing to do.
And asking for feedback.
And asking for feedback. And sometimes you get a lot more feedback than you
anticipated.
I think we cut half of my message out for next week.
And this is what's cool. This is what's really cool. It's amazing to sit in that room and to hear all the feedback from everybody. And then that next Sunday, you guys use that feedback. The things that are said you bring into your message. So it's not just this thing. That's a really vulnerable thing to do. And I think as a leader, it's a really strong thing to say, hey, I want to get better and I need your help. And then you actually are applying what we're giving you.
Well, yes, it is vulnerable, but the 8 or 9 people that have been in there have been great. I mean, like bringing really good stuff. And so you get your notes in on Friday and then you have time to look over that. Then we share it. It is it was awkward from the beginning. I remember from the beginning, the first time we did it, it was like, oh, this is a little sensitive. But man, you get up there on Sunday and what the whole team has worked on, and you share it and you hear the response of people, and it's actually moving them towards something. You're like, we need to do more of this, not less. And so it's been great, been super helpful. And I think it's helped us advance and push forward on Sundays.
It's interesting because you think back now, and it makes me a little like nervous thinking about when we didn't do that. And you just see the message is that much better when you have, 7, 8 more eyes on it. But it is because everyone on that team is bringing something that helps it out,
So much so that there's been weeks that we've had so many people out, or it's been holidays, and we send a voice recording out to everybody so that we can react to it. And because it has been so important.
Yeah, it's so good. I've always said this, like Nick is really good with just really concise transitional like statements that you can build stuff. It's like, dude, that's so good. And so it's just fun to have. Amanda does good stuff too.
Good job, Nick.
Matt said something nice about
I
me.
know.
So, it's one of those things like, dude, good change. Now it feels normal.
It does, yeah.
It's normal.
Remember we
now.
used to do that on Sunday morning? Yeah. Like you'd teach and we'd be like, don't say that.
Well, for the second service. The second service would be like,
first service already heard it.
First service is unfiltered, second service.
And I think one of your main motivations, Sean, is you've been saying this a lot, is everything that we bring to the church, whether it's an event or a ministry or a message, you want it to be helpful. Yes. You want it to be helpful and a good resource to anyone that we're serving. Yeah. It seems like that's a big motivation why you did it in the first place.
Yes, and came out of a conversation with my group of pastors that I meet with a couple times a year, and it was just a challenge. And there were some other groups that were doing that and gave a little bit of encouragement. And I said, let's try this. And it has been really good. It's been good relationally too. Like, just sitting in that, because we sit in that room together a lot on leadership things. It's been good to have some other people a part of our team that are sitting in that room and connecting and laughing and talking and adding to, and then seeing their stuff actually affect people from the stage too. It's been great. The other side of it is we put a lot of effort in on the teaching, but you guys have put a lot of effort in on the worship. And I've noticed just even a change in the passion level of our people as they worship. You guys writing out of your hearts, first of all, writing out of scripture, but then also writing out of the story that God has, that he's playing out in our church right now, has been really exciting. And so great job on that.
Thank you. And doing a few worship nights. Last worship night at Niwot, my favorite. You guys did the in the round thing. So cool.
It was a powerful. We were talking about it, the original songs, and the other day we were chatting about it. And one thing that we're realizing is because these songs are being written out of our own experiences and people in the church, people that we know. I mean, there's times when, you guys know this, you're on stage and you're looking out and you see people and you're like, I know your story. And there's moments when you're like, the idea of grace means something different now when I consider your story. And I think that writing songs out of some of those stories, it just raises that level of intention and focus on a Sunday morning, because we're writing songs that came out of this place. Yeah. And God is good. Why? Because we've seen him be good. He's going to be faithful. Why? Because we've seen him be faithful. And it just elevates that experience in the moment.
I think it makes faith just like so relevant too, because there's a couple songs you guys have written out, like you're saying, out of your own experience. Yeah. And there was one of you guys who were up there a couple weeks ago, and you were sharing, and it was a song that you guys have written, and tears actually came out as he was talking. And I think the passion level that you guys are having is producing a passion level in our people too.
It's funny, we've sang some of the songs now you guys have written for so long.
People
Sometimes
wonder.
I forget that it's our song. And so somebody will say to me, who sings that song? And I'm always like, I don't know, probably like Hillsong or something. And then I go and check, oh, that's our song. And it's like, that's really good.
I also do the flip. I'm like, our songs are so good that I'll be listening to a song. I'm like, did we write that? And Nick's like, nope, I wish. We didn't.
Claim it.
You guys did a job.
It makes me think. I was looking on my social media for a video that I was going to use in a message, and it was when Maddie was 7 years old. So it's 10 years ago. And so I just flipping back through trying to find this video because I had deleted it somehow, and I ran into all these pictures of us like
Oh, that's funny.
our church
Uh-huh.
10 years ago and 8 years ago and 7 years ago. And guys, I love the history of this place. I love who we were. But I'm thankful we're not. I'm thankful that we've grown. I just feel like it's always a continual story of what God's doing. And I was laughing. There was a few pictures of mauve carpet and like tan, pews and all that stuff. And to see all the different things that have happened, even change in facility, but change in leadership ideas and philosophy and programs and worship and teaching. I just think God's doing something really good right now. I'm grateful. And I hope it is being as helpful as we want it to be for people.
Yeah, me too.
But I do think you see the stories of changed lives, the amount of baptisms that are happening. God's doing good things.
Yep.
For sure.
I thought he was going to talk about his hair.
I also thought he was going to bring up his hair.
Did you have hair when you
I did.
started here? Yeah. I remember that. I've seen the
The
stats.
facial hair has come and gone.
Yeah. I remember
The
the
goatee, the glasses, and a little bit of hair. Guys, yeah.
I think the only combination I haven't
Things have
seen
changed.
is just a mustache.
Yeah.
That's your next move.
No.
I also thought he was going to talk about your hair,
Oh.
glasses, facial hair. We could probably pull up some pictures. Nick and I, we've looked the same the
gotten
entire
look the
time.
same. I think I've just gotten. You've lost weight. I've gained weight.
well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
One of the things that we kind of touched on just briefly was the hiring of Enoch. I don't know if you mentioned Enoch, but sports ministry has been a big part of Rocky, in just an amazing way to connect with people outside of our church. So last year was this like historic year. Actually, no, it was early 2022.
It was 2022. We partnered with 2 outside organizations for the first time. Niwot Youth Sports, Carbon Valley, had the biggest number, 1,100. I mean, it depends on who you ask.
I think it was 1 million.
I think, yeah. Sean, how many was it?
It was 1,190. That's what it was. Yeah.
At 90.
Yeah, at
What
90.
sport is this?
This is called basketball.
Oh.
So it's actually basketball and cheer.
Oh.
But and then 2023 is looking to be even bigger.
Yes, so we've expanded anymore, but cool partnership with those. Obviously, like I said, biggest basketball numbers that we've had, but it's not just about the numbers. It's about the impact that we have in the community, and so many cool stories that come out of that partnership. And because we can talk about these things that we're grateful for, and it's like, are you just grateful because you have big numbers and things are expanding? And it's like, no, it's because life change is happening, and it's cool stories that come out of that. And I don't know if you guys have anything specific. Matt, I think about the teams that you have coached.
Have you ever won?
First of all, have you ever won a championship?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have you ever won Coach of the Year?
No.
Yeah.
That's a
Me neither.
that's
Have
a
you?
sore.
I have one coach of
That's
the
sore
year.
subject.
But
I-
the kiddo on your team, like who hadn't, I think hadn't scored, you almost came back and basically beat a team you shouldn't have beat last year. Just some cool stories of kids, not just winning, but just of life changing these kids.
There's so many relational wins that happen
Yeah.
in our basketball program, and you're never going to get access to all of them. But there is influence happening all over the place, which part of the cool story from this past year was we had always just kind of, as a lead team, talked about when there's a day coming, we're going to launch into more of a sports ministry. But that's a big endeavor. It's a big step. And so it was always like, well, that's probably, that's next year or 2 years, 3 years. And in the midst of doing some interviewing for those positions we talked about earlier, it was like God was kind of orchestrating this deal and going, the time is now. And I think even kind of surprised us a little bit. And also the unity just in that discussion with lead team and with elders. And it was like, the time is now, and just had bumped into the right guy. And so it's like, yeah, let's do it. And so, I mean, we're not giving out all details right now, but
exciting things to come. Super exciting
there is stuff, that is in the works that is coming, because we want to, we're leveraging the culture that we live. Sports has a lot of influence.
Yeah.
And as a church, we're saying, how do we use that even more? We love our basketball program, but how can we use sports more to gain influence with families in our community. And so, I mean, there's some cool stuff coming.
There is, yeah.
And it's coming a lot sooner than we probably thought, but you just see that God's in it. And there's so many touch points from this past year that just led us to that place. So I'm excited about it because I just think it's going to allow us, as a church to reach more people. And yeah, it's going to be.
Yeah, this time next year, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
To be seeing all the things that are happening.
I think we'll be talking a lot about those wins, and who knows, maybe I'll get Coach of the Year or.
Are you coaching this year?
Okay, so let's.
Do they do Ref of the Year?
Yeah, no, that would get.
He would get that.
He is a good ref, unless he's reffing my
He's
game.
a good coach. He's a good coach.
He's a great guy all around.
Here, in all seriousness, the funniest story from basketball last year was, I'm coaching these boys, these 3rd and 4th grade boys. We're losing every game. We're trying to teach them plays. It's just not working. We get to like the last game of the season, and I had this one boy. He wants to be Steph Curry. He wants to shoot it from anywhere. And we had lost every game. And so I just said, buddy, you shoot it from wherever you want this game. And he started
draining them.
shots all over the place.
You guys, I was on the sideline.
And we won the game.
I'm like,
we won the game.
They're going to win. This kid is just draining shots from everywhere.
And then you realized you were the thing holding this kid back all season long.
He kept, sometimes Steph Curry will do that. He'll shoot it and then he'll go like this, and that's what he'd shoot and be like, he'd make it, start running back. It was a lot of fun. And so, that's my coaching's like, just awesome. Shoot it from where you want. We'll probably win.
And you're going to retire on that note, right?
Yeah. It was good. It was good.
So here's the thing. I run the risk of there's so many things we haven't talked about that we could celebrate. And if there's another thing that you have to get in, just interrupt me. But I think what's important and valuable about what we've shared is these are personal to us.
Yes.
And but what's cool is it runs the gamut of ministries at Rocky. I think we're all really, really connected. There's a lot that feels like it's at stake. And I'm looking forward to 2023. And one thing that's interesting is when you look back and you're grateful, you can look at it with a sense of gratitude, but there's also this 2023. I'm excited about what's ahead and what's coming. Sean, you said something a few weeks ago on stage, and you were speaking about being content. And that is something that we struggle with. Yeah. But you're talking about what Scripture says, and you said it's possible to be content with what we have, but also have this desire for more. That stuck with me. I've been thinking about it for weeks, and I don't know if you could take some time to unpack that a little bit more. What does that mean? What does that look like? Is it really possible?
Well, I think it is, and I was toying around with just some words a little bit because that has stuck with me, and we've chatted about it a little bit, and. The idea of grateful discontent kind of landed with me. And I think we all live with, would you guys agree that I think we live with a sense of discontentment in some area, usually? Mm-hmm. I don't think there's ever a time, even in our happiest times, we're just like, well, this is great, but this over here, if it would be better, that'd be awesome. And it doesn't matter what age you are. I got a 19-year-old who's up at college. I got a 17-year-old in high school. I got, my wife, myself, all of us, we kind of live in those spots of well, I wish this one thing would be a little better. I would say this though, you look at Scripture, and I think God created us with a level of discontentment. That sounds weird. You're like, He created us with that? I think He did, because if we didn't have a level of discontentment, we'd never need each other, and we'd never need Him. And He even talks about in Scripture how God has placed, He created man, He placed heaven in the hearts of man, it says. Well, He created a desire for something more. And so there is a side of us that we will never be totally content this side of heaven. And it is because there's a desire for God, because He'll fill that. But you sit there, and I think if you're a single person, you're saying, man, I would sure like to find my person. I'd like to be married. You can sit there in a job and be like, man, I would like to have a different job. I think it's possible for us to sit there in a place and say, you know what? I love the friends that I have. I'm grateful for those. I'm grateful for what I'm learning about myself, but I still desire a relationship with somebody else. I desire to get married for a single person. I think in a job, you can say, man, I'm thankful and grateful for this job, even though I desire maybe to be compensated more, or to find another job, or to be using my gifts in a better sense of what I'm created to do. I think there's an idea of like grateful discontent, because if we live in that side, even though it's created in us, if we live in that side and all we do is think about our discontent, man, it robs joy. And it also robs growth, because we're always constantly thinking about, man, if I just had this, but we're never, what do I have and what opportunities do I have? And I think the antidote for that, I saw a quote that said, from Jennifer Thompson, she said, gratitude is the enemy of discontent. And I don't think I think what you need is not that you have one or the other. I think you need one with the other. So if God created a discontentment in us to want more, even for growth and to become better and all of that, there still needs to be a gratitude in our lives to balance out that side. And I was looking in Philippians chapter 1, and I think Paul says it well. He's talking to the Philippian church. It's a thank you note to them. And he's thanking them for their generosity of caring for him, caring for his ministry. And in verse 3, it says, he's talking about the people. He says, I thank my God every time I remember you. In all my prayers for all of you, I always pray with joy because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day till now. And it was interesting looking back, like I mentioned earlier, through the pictures of the different people and things and programs and opportunities and all the people that invested. And man, I am incredibly grateful for the last 10 years. But I also would say, I'm not content.
Right.
Like I'm grateful. And Paul's saying, I'm grateful for these things. But then he goes on, he says, being confident in this, that he who began a good work, God began a good work at this place in 1984. Thank you. 1984.
The church is
How can you ever forget that, Sean?
Sorry, yeah. But God started a great work, and he's done it through so many different people. And you get to this point being confident in this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. I think there's a side in that with Paul that's saying, but he's not done yet. And I think you look at you, our staff, our people who invest in so much in helping the mission move forward, in all of us. I'm incredibly grateful. But I'm also saying we're not done yet. Like, I think there's a whole lot more. And when we talk about sports ministry and we talk about student ministry and we talk about all these other things, it's like, I'm not content with where we are now. I feel like that in my own life. There's so many things that I've been able to feel like God has grown me over the last 10 years. I've watched him grow you. But I look at that and I don't think any of us are sitting here saying, well, we've made it. I think we're saying there's more that God has out there. And that's what I hope 2023 will be, is just another step in the direction of, hey, God's not content yet with where we are, but he's given us everything we need. I think every person out there that's watching right now, man, when you invest in all the different things that we've been talking about, you're the ones that's helping make the difference in people's lives. And I hope this year, man, we just get to involve more people. So I think there's a side of us of like, even in our own personal life, we should ask ourselves like, man, what are we grateful for? And we ought to let that be a reminder of like, God is there with us. He's in with us. He's involved in our daily life. And hindsight's always 20/20. We look back and we're like, wow, he's been working. That's awesome. But I think our discontent, we also ought to ask ourselves, what am I discontent with? And where do I need to grow? And I think the balance of those two things, of not being satisfied where we are, it's probably a great place to be. And that discontent is probably in the areas of some things that we need to work on. Sometimes we blame other people because of those discontentment areas. But really, there's probably a thing to learn for all of us. Like when it comes back to that teaching side, there were some things that, man, we probably started leaning into that more, because I would say, man, I'm more naturally gifted toward the leadership side. And so it's easier to lean into this, but I was always discontent because I felt like I could do better. There should be more response. And there was some reality of, I had to ask myself, am I content with this? No. And some people encouraged me, hey, you're actually do a better job than you think. You should lean into that side a whole lot more, because the opportunity there, man, God can use you big. And so we leaned in and said, we're not content. What can we do? And we put some different things around it. Man, God has blessed. And sometimes I think the next step is actually just like, take a step. Like define it. Where are you discontent and what step do you want to make this year? And let's take it together and see what happens. And man, you put the 4 of us together, you put the rest of our team together, you put all the people out there together, and man, that he who began a good work in us will carry it on to completion. I think God can do some pretty incredible things.
We have an opportunity starting next week as a church through a sermon series that we're starting. It's called Grit. What's the subtitle?
Go one more.
Go one more. You guys wanted to say that in unison, but you got it wrong. But we don't normally do something like this. And yes, we're doing the teaching series, but there's also going to be opportunity for people to kind of go in together to say, hey, here's some goals that I want to hit in my life over the course of 52 days. And you guys want to explain any more than that?
Yeah, I think grit's this idea of like you're putting yourself in a situation it's tough, it's difficult, but you're going to endure it, you're going to persevere, you're going to get through it, and you're going to be better because of it. And so, yeah, this idea, like what Sean was saying about, hey, there's this healthy discontent because we want more. To get to the more, it's probably going to take some sweat, some tears, some being uncomfortable. And so we feel that as a church, and I joke all the time, I talk about grit in my house just with my kids. I want them to do tough things simply because they're tough and because life is hard. And to get to some of these things, you've got to make some changes. We use the phrase sometimes, nothing changes if nothing changes.
That's right. Yeah.
So grit's this thing like, I'm going to do it and I'm going to get through it. And it's not easy, but I'll be better for it on the other side. So we feel that as a church. We feel that, some of us have these stories of we have done things we don't want to do over a period of time for health and exercise, and we're better. We feel that, but it's not always fun and it's not always easy. So we're talking about grit, go one more.
Love it.
We're going to hit the book of Nehemiah, so it'll be through the lens of Scripture, and I'm excited about that. I love that book. It is a leadership book, and just amazing things that God accomplishes in that book through some people. But we're also going to attach it. You could hear this and you'd be like, okay, is this going to be like that cliche, New Year's resolution series? Not at all. We're going to give some people opportunities to make some commitments, do it in community. But I guarantee you, here's what's going to happen. There's going to be some people that don't do it, and they're going to get 50 to 60 days down the road. They're going to see some of their friends that have done it. They'll see some of the changes, and they'll be like, I wish I would have done that. So don't miss out.
Don't be that
invite
person.
Somebody to be.
So we're going to do 52 days.
Yeah.
Check marking stuff off. Nick, are you ready?
If people like checklists, this could be a great series, right?
Yeah, could be a
If you
great
don't,
series.
it's okay. You don't have to check things off. Still got to do it.
We hope you do it. You should do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
We've all been there where we started something off and we're like, I know I need to work through this. And some of you have been there where you started working out with a friend or whatever, and then you stop for whatever reason, but they kept going, and you're 2 months down the road and you're like, I wish I would have done
And now
that.
they're ripped and you're not.
But seriously, this could be a great opportunity. And we won't let the whole cat out of the bag on it, but it's going to be fun and good. It's the kind of series you want to invite somebody to come be a part of.
So obviously we'll be hearing more about that in upcoming weeks. We have small groups that are going to be launching in February. Is that right?
Yep, February 5th is our launch. We've got small groups. We've got financial peace launching. So
There's a lot of opportunity
basketball starting.
That's right. That thing.
Yeah, that thing. Yep.
Right
Cool
on.
opportunities.
A lot of good things. We have an album that's going to be coming out.
Yeah,
I don't want to say a
awesome.
date because we've changed it like 3 or 4 times, but it will come out, and that'll be exciting for everybody. But hey, great conversation. Thanks for sharing, you guys, the things that you're celebrating. But also, I love that idea of I'm excited for more. I'm excited for 2023. The more and more we have the year 2020 behind us, like the longer we go, it's just more and more kind of a breath of fresh air. So I'm excited for next year.
I think we do need to just say thank you to all of our people. I do think sometimes people sit in the seats and say they cheer on what they feel like other people are doing.
Yeah.
And I think everyone needs to know, if you've been involved in any way, all those baptisms, all those kids that are connecting with the different ministries, all the students, all the people that are connected, we help make that happen together. And so we're incredibly grateful, and I do think 2023 is going to be the best yet.
All right, so we're going to do this. It's a new year. So we're all gonna look into the camera over there and say Happy New Year on 3. Ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
1, 2, 3. Happy New Year! Love you guys, and we'll see you next week.